Hi students, it's Miss Wood again. I'm on Tuesday's 317 lesson today. Our lesson is going to be a combination, like it was yesterday, of two things. We're going to work on distributive property and parts of an expression. So I'm going to start off with parts of an expression. And I've been really talking a lot about this in class because I talked about how these are our money in the bank questions. They're the ones that we've got to get right. So let's get started. There's some parts of an expression that we need to know. The first part that we need to know is there are terms. And the terms are usually the groups of numbers and numbers that are around the operation, like these are our operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. So if I have this example, 2x plus 4y equals 9. Okay, so what we know here is that there are something, if I ask you what the variables were, the variables are the things that can change. And so that would be something that you can plug in for a letter. So the letters that I see in our problem are x and y, so our variables will be x and y. We have something, and I've been talking a lot about this, is coefficients. Coefficients are the things that are with, that's what the word co means, with the variables. So the things that are with the variables would be the 2 and the 4. Okay, the 2 and the 4 would be our coefficients in this problem. Okay. We also have something, and I did not include it in this problem, is we also have a constant. So an example of that would be if I had 3y plus 8 equals, let's say I said 20. Okay, so again, we would have two terms. We have one term, two terms, so there would be two terms. We also know that there is variables. The variable, well, in this case, we just have a variable, not variables. The variable is y, and then we have the coefficient, like we talked about in the last slide, is what's with the variable, which would be 3. Okay, and then last, we have the constant. The constant is what's going to constantly be the same. The constant in this problem is 8. 8. So, if we were to, another thing, we haven't really discussed this, the constant can also be 20. The answer that's just by itself, 20, can also be the constant. So that's good to know. Okay, so let's practice again. On the next slide, we have in this problem a variable. What would be the variable? And what would be the constant in this expression? The variable would be y. The constant would be 4. And the coefficient would be the 2. So when we start doing our Google form quiz and our practice, the practice questions will be in two different links. The first link will have to do with the parts of an expression. And then the second link will have to do with distributive property, which is what I'm about to go over next with you. And then your Google form will be the quiz that you get your grade for each day will be a mix of these two things. Just like yesterday was a mix of surface area and volume. So now let's talk about distributive property. Okay, distributive property. Hold on a second. Distributive property is when you have an expression in the parentheses such as 7 plus 2, And on the outside of those parentheses, you have a number. It might be 8. Okay? And what you're doing is you are distributing this 8 with everything inside the parentheses. The biggest problem that we usually have is students will distribute 8 with 7 because they see side by side I multiply, and they'll do 8 times 7, which gives them 56, but then they tend to do this. They tend to put plus 2, and that is a big problem. We cannot do that. You have to distribute 8 because he's attached to everything inside those parentheses. So you're distributing 8 with also the 2 in the parentheses. So then it would be 8 times 2, which gives you 16. So this is doing distributive property. You distributed 8 with everything inside the parentheses. Another example might look like this. They might do 4. They might put a variable on the inside, also with a constant. So again, we're distributing 4 with everything inside the parentheses. Everything. So it would be 4 times y, which is the same as 4y, plus 4 times 2, which is the same as 8. So this would be distributive property. Okay, so next, let's try another example. What if we did x on the outside? Let's say we did a variable on the outside and we said 4 plus 3. What will we do then? You still distribute x with everything on the parentheses. So that would be 4x plus 3x. Also, we know that these are like terms. You can actually end up putting those together, and it would equal 7x because they both have x's. So that's our quick little lesson for today, reminding us how to do distributive property. Oh, one more thing. What if they do it in reverse? What if they give us something like this? They give us 6, 6 plus, let's do 18. Is there something I can distribute out of those two numbers that I can distribute out of it? Instead of putting it in, can I distribute it out? Well, there's a number of things you can do. You're basically finding common factors that go into both of these. I know 2 can go into both of those numbers. I know 3 can go into both of those numbers. I know 4 does not, 5 does not. I know 6 can go into both those numbers. So you could distribute out 2, and you say, okay, well, if I distribute out 2 from 6, what's left? Oops, excuse me. 3 is left. And think about it. If I did 2 times 3, that gives me this 6. And if I distribute 2 out of 18, what's left? 9 is. So again, 2 times 9 gives me 18. That's one way you could do it. You could distribute out 3, and you could say 6, 3 out of 6, what am I left with? You're left with now 2. And if I distribute 3 out of 18, I'm left with 6. And you always go back and kind of relook at it and make sure it makes sense. I'll kind of go in reverse. I'll say 3 times 2, yes, it's 6. 3 times 6, yes, it's 18. I can also distribute out 6, we said. So if I take 6 out of 6, you're just left with 1, right? And then if I distribute out 6 from 18, I'm left with 3, okay? So again, I can go back and look, okay, 6 times 1, yes, it's 6. 6 times 3, yes, it's 18. So that's another way that you might see distributive property. All right, so this is your video for today, for Tuesday. And you can do your practice questions. I'll send on the link right behind this. And then you have your Google form quiz. Please, please, please make sure that you're really doing the Google form quiz and not guessing, because these are going to be grades in the grade book. All right, thank you so much and have a nice day.